try to distract from over and over again, of whether Israel is actually guilty of war crimes. What you actually want to say morally about that comes after.
CEO, what do you have to say for yourself?
Oh, Andrew, you've been listening this whole time?
Well, I had to cauterize the bleeding a few times.
Oh, hello, Andrew.
Andrew's always watching.
That's true. Do you guys know how to save a Twitter post? I think you can bookmark it. No,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
in a
so
way that if it gets deleted, I still have it, and I can show it was still posted. You have to screenshot. That's easily something you can easily fabricate. Well, that's your only option, basically.
Or unless you go, isn't there that site, the waybackmachine.com or something, where it saves?
I'm actually trying to use it, but it's not working. It's not saving stuff. It's not saving tweets. But that's just kind of what I was looking for, but for Twitter, because the normal option doesn't work.
I think you lost that debate, though. I'm going to be real.
Lost what debate?
With my boy CEO, undefeated champ.
Yeah.
Dude, he's been in Donald's room before. He's some stupid deist, I think. I heard you talk to him before, actually.
I've talked to CEO before.
I'm sorry, I was on the phone. What did you say about?
Andrew, you're extremely low.
Oh, I just said, did we call him a stupid?
Yeah, I called him stupid. That's what I said to you. I said you're an idiot.
Oh.
Do you have some data to support?
He's all the past 20 minutes. No, but here's the thing.
Argument you just presented.
but AWOC, come on, please.
Yeah, I mean, so what is your direct counterpoint to my?
Well, if there was still someone on the table, you should pick up before you move on, right?
I'm sorry, I was going to ask again. What is your direct counterpoint to my argument?
What? I mean, you still have the arguments on the table you didn't deal with. What are you talking about?
Wait, what was?
Well, can you bring something up for me to respond to?
Did you make any point other than it's not a war crime because I don't know what a war crime is?
Well, no, it moved on to it's not a war crime because, if it was a war crime, then I'd have to say, Hiroshima and, all these other instances are also war crimes, and I don't want to say that, so this get the.
Yeah, Piper, that's very close, actually. I think that we would say all wars are war crimes, then, and so therefore there's no differentiation, and then there's therefore no value in the term. So that's my issue, is that words need to have meaning, and if everything is a war crime, then it has no meaning. The meaning has been lost. That's my.
International community defining war crime as when you don't protect civilians.
But even beyond that, right? Because there's still delineation to be made conceptually, right? It's still informative to say, look, all the past experiences we have are criminal, right? There's still conceptually a form of war that isn't criminal. So the delineation is still preserved.
It doesn't extend exclusively to civilians, because also if a combatant surrendered, you're supposed to observe their surrender and not kill them as well, right?
Yeah.
If military personnel, so it doesn't just that.
Well, there's a decent case to be made that all of these videos of supposed Hamas fighters getting stripped to their underwear are also videos of war crimes, right?
Torture, all that kind of stuff, right? Torture of POW, military personnel. There's also a big thing in England with the incarceration of members of the IRA and stuff, whether or not they deserve political status. But it's if they did eventually, like they went on like hunger strike or whatever, and they achieved their political status, albeit some like de facto status, right? But the idea is like that means if you didn't observe kind of any of those tenets of this like political status, then that would also be maybe not necessarily a war crime, but it would be like misconduct under international humanitarian law, which in the during like a military campaign would obviously constitute some kind of crime or some kind of contravention of these like rules of engagement. So like there's like so much, but the major point is like this guy knows nothing about what he was talking about. Self-admitted. What argument will you ever present other than not?
Piper, look, I don't have an issue with the logic that Piper used.
That proper percentage or something. I've been on like 20 minutes. This guy's still on the center of attention.
I have an issue.
Can I speak now, Jacob? And then this bullshit.
I feel like I need to give my boy CEO a little love here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
You should show Palestinian love.
Well, you might have to have some humility here, CEO, and just kind of acknowledge that Piper kind of knocked that out of the park.
Oh no, he still beat Piper. Like I didn't see their exchange, but I'm sure Abel was correct that he beat Piper.
Yeah, no, right. Well, right.
I'm gonna become like Sully, and I'm gonna leave the group chat because how much I get made fun of.
You're gonna pull
I don't know, like start making fun of him as your video. Don't they?
CEO, I mean, do you can you still man what you think is being pointed out as being pretty flawed with what you have said?
Andrew, you need to like revise the conception of charity. You go from like cartoon to 5-year-olds.
Let me talk to Andrew for 1 second. So Andrew, I don't have an issue with the basic logic that Piper used, okay? I'm good with it. My concern is what it means. And so if it means that every single war ever is war crimes, then the term war crimes has lost its value. If it means, so that's my, so
already responded to that, CEO.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, CEO, I don't think that's true, right? Because when I eat an orange, it's not a war crime, right? I mean, I think we're still making distinctions, and I don't think it's an issue to just broaden it out and say, hey, look, pretty much all these wars and all this stuff that we did is a war crime.
Well, but Piper has said Hiroshima is a war crime. By general society standards, that's not classified as one. By Piper's
Read the link.
Afghanistan, U.S. war crimes. Iraq, U.S. war crimes. So by Piper's standard, every war, again, except for Serbia, Bosnia, U.S. involvement.
I don't even know.
That's my issue, Andrew. So do you
I don't even know what's supposed to be unintuitive about let's like humor this point for a second. I don't really think it should be humored because again we're trying to decide whether what Israel is doing right is a war crime by international legal standards, right? We're not trying to do some analysis of CEOs and intuitions about the word war crime, but okay, if we want to do that, right, then we can do that. I'm not so sure what you think is supposed to be unintuitive about the idea that most wars throughout history have been criminal.
Yeah, that's good. That's really, I agree, Piper. And the thing is, CEO, it's kind of like looking at these statues, right, in the United States, and people thinking that they are like, patriotic and they're good to have, good piece of history, and they represent men of honor. And then now they're being toppled, right? Because they have now been kind of understood as being not representing things that we would want to say are good or noble, right? In a lot of cases, I guess that's where we're at, right? In principle, I think you can understand what's going on there. And I don't think that there's anything odd to say, yeah, then most of these wars and battles, whatever they would have been, war crimes. I mean, if by war crime you mean the way we understand it now, then it would fall
we kill ourselves. That's the only like solution.
I mean, I can tell you what to do with that, right? Like, if you, the whole point of this kind of stuff is to like point out that like, you know, just because we take ourselves to be fighting in a just conflict doesn't mean that we get to disregard the lives of innocent bystanders.
Okay, that's a good point, Piper. I would agree with that point.
CEO, can you say that Israel's guilty? I mean, just to be clear, I don't understand anybody that's like, you know, Israel's wrong or Palestine's wrong, but they don't talk about the other side.
Well, again, I have said that by just a letter of the law, by the Geneva Convention, that there's war crimes committed in every war, including Israel and Palestine. So, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
My challenge is that does not allow us to delineate what when we say war crime, we normally have a very specific definition of it, and it is usually harsher than what we talk about in terms of like what went on between Afghanistan and the U.S., for instance, right? When we talk about war crimes, usually we're talking about people like in Syria and using nerve gas and agents that are very harsh situations. So normally war criminals type of very harsh things that are way over the top. So we just use the term on the surface level that I feel like Piper is using, then I feel like the term loses its meaning.
Okay. So is that similar to saying that if you looked at someone for too long, that's rape, right? It's demeaning the usage of the term. And I mean, if that's what you're saying, then I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's
my
good.
Entire argument.
Yeah, but maybe it's good. Maybe it's good to kind of amplify the seriousness of these things, though, because of how egregious it is. The stuff that's going on in the human life, the stuff that's being done. You might be in favor of broadening it out, CEO, because I think if you have such a restrictive definition, then really there's a lot of stuff that's kind of being made to appear more acceptable by not qualifying it as that. And maybe it is good to call it a war crime in a lot of cases. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, when I say it's very similar to what you said at the end there about the egregious nature, I don't think it's a good idea to just make it a black and white thing. Right? You can have one war where war crimes were committed, but it was like limited to maybe individual soldiers. Maybe they just said, go and destroy that building where we're being attacked from, where they're like some missiles coming from. And then the individual soldiers might have gone there and also beat some people up and shot some people and did what they weren't sent to do. Usually that country can even try those soldiers and punish them, and a war crime would have been committed by those soldiers and whatever. But you can't just say, oh, since that's war crime and another one we're pointing to with an egregious coming from the top military strategy and everything, and you say, oh, it waters it down because this one I also described is also a war crime, so it waters it down. If you don't use a black and white mentality, you can already see that it's a big difference, and we can still let's not just be black and white about this thing. So I guess my main point is that the mere fact that you're able to point to some other things where war crime, that almost every war you might find like war crimes there, but their nature, like an individual soldier misbehaving, it could be like that. If you have it coming from the top, saying, well, in fact, disregard civilians, just flatten all their buildings, and you have evidence of them being directed to do that, then that's not your everyday war. That's not every war. So you can't just use this idea that every war has war crimes, so now it's meaningless. No, that's meaningless.
I guess, Jacob, I would say it like this. If the UN established degrees or something like, degree 1, degree 2, degree 3, then I think it might be much easier to kind of tackle this question. But right now, technically the same in terms of the definition, and that makes it. That's what to me makes it.
No, it's not. It's not the same. During a trial, it's not the same. Like what Israel is doing now, what Israel has in the court now. If maybe each time some of those ministers did those genocidal comments, in fact they were charged, they were in prison, that's gonna actually like be in their favor in the end, right? So it's not a black and white. That's what I was trying to tell you. It's not like, oh, that war there was a war crime, this war there was. It depends on how you handle it.
That's fair. That's fair. So let me ask Piper this. So Piper, how do you differentiate between what Israel did and what the leader of Syria did in terms of using biological weapons on its citizens? How do you differentiate that and how you use them? He must not be. The Piper must not be there. Does anyone else?
I just got back. What's up?
So, how do you differentiate between what Israel has done versus the leader of Syria who used biological weapons against citizens?
Oh, he's guilty of war crimes.
Okay,
he's clearly guilty of war crimes.
Yeah, I understand, but like, how do you differentiate it? Like, are they exactly the same to you? Like, how do you differentiate it? That's my point.
What are you talking about? Moral differentiation?
I'm just talking about in terms of how it's classified. Because to me, basically, to make them sound the same, it seems ridiculous.
I mean, again, it's in the same in respect to what? Like, are you asking for
term war crime here, war crime there? It just seems.
Well, it's either a war crime or it isn't, right? By international legal standards, right? Now, like, there's probably going to be a sort of, like there is in law generally, there's probably going to be, like war crimes that are considered more egregious, right, under the law, such that, if the International Criminal Court were to actually try any of the parties involved, some types of war crimes would incur harsher sentences than others. But I mean, I'm not really sure what you're asking.
I said earlier that if they had defined this as like there's war crime degree 1, 2, 3, and 4, it'd be much easier to work through. But because it's just a blanketed term, it renders the term way less. I
mean, I think they do have gradations for that.
It's similar to like maybe like theft now, and you say, oh, so even when you steal a packet of biscuit, it's still called theft or whatever, and therefore now the term's meaningless. So now even somebody who tried to like even smash jewelry and steal like hundreds of millions of pounds of stuff, and if that's theft as well.
Yeah, but that's easier to qualify, right? Even though the way you said it, you qualified it, right? You didn't just say, hey. But you didn't take a bank robber and someone who took candy and said, hey, they're both theft. You explained what they did. And so
you would say they're both theft.
I know, listen.
They're both theft under the law.
I know, but listen, you're able to clearly understand the differentiating points between the two. You're able to quickly.
Yeah, you might be clear. I mean, you could be. I mean, again, when you say differentiating points, right, and you don't qualify any further, ironically, you're sort of guilty of what you're accusing me of, in that you're being entirely vague, and I have no idea what you're talking about, right? You could be talking about like, okay, what's the more severe crime, right? And yeah, you could ask that question. You could be talking about which is worse morally, right? You can ask that question. But you have to actually like specify what kind of differentiation you're asking about in order to get like an answer.
Yes, the severity is whitewashed when we just say it like that. When we're describing, when we're using the same language for what we're saying Israel did to what the leader of Syria did, we're whitewashing it, and that is my issue. The severity is not being framed.
What? So okay, so then if I go and punch somebody in the face, and Jeffrey Dahmer goes and murders and eats people, if we call both of those crimes, that's whitewashing them?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
If you stop there, if you just stop there, yes. If you just stop at.
What do you mean stop there? The question is whether they're crimes or not. I remind you, what you and I were debating about originally was whether Israel is guilty of war crimes. We were not debating about whether their war crimes were as bad as somebody else's war crimes or were as severe. We're debating whether they were guilty of war crimes in the first place.
That was a reason why because again, the Hiroshima example isn't classified technically as a war crime, even though by your definition of the standard U.S.
Wait, when you say isn't classified, what do you actually mean by that?
What I mean,
because I'm going off of what international law actually says. You seem to be going off of your intuitions and the intuitions of people that you know.
Yeah, so in summary, in like a short summary, what would be the violation? Or what would be the violation to make them a war criminal under the standard that you're employing, Piper? Just to make sure you guys are on the same page. I think it's just a matter of
you have an obligation to protect civilians.
About this. I agree with him on it.
Okay, well, we're on the same. Then you agree that they're war crimes?
Yeah.
Well, I have a question.
By again, the standard. By again, what?
Okay,
but my issue.
Your point is why? Because you think it minimizes the serious elements of war crimes. To say.
Well, look, CEO. If that's the point, you don't consider it serious when Israel says go evacuate along this route and then bombs it.
I consider it a military strategy to eliminate the enemy.
I asked if you considered it serious.
Yeah, is this serious?
Yes, it's serious.
This is serious.
Okay, so then what's the objection to calling it a war crime? It clearly doesn't minimize the seriousness.
My issue is for military intent was to eliminate the enemy, and they were trying to end the war faster. And so
that is the case with all war crimes, CEO.
But the maliciousness, the degree of maliciousness varied. So the situation in Syria, there was no rationale for that approach. None. Zero.
Wait, what are you talking about? The government had rationale. Like, look, Assad is gonna deploy pretty much very similar sounding rationale to all the rationales that you deploy when you try to justify Israel's conduct, right? We have to crush the enemy. We have to eliminate the enemy. This is a war. Blah, 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 blah. This is a threat to our security. We have a right to defend ourselves. It's the same shit everywhere. That's what all states say in their own defense, right? So I don't see how you're doing this gigantic separation between what Assad did and what Israel did. In fact, I think personally, if you're that interested in maliciousness, which by the way, maliciousness is beside the point. We're considering whether they're war crimes, right? You keep going away from that question to other stuff, right? But if you want to talk about maliciousness, I think Israel is I think Bashar al-Assad is extremely evil. I think Israel is way more evil.
Yeah, CO, if it meets the definition of war crime, you shouldn't shy away from using that because we need to communicate with people, so we want to adopt the same language, right? I don't think you want to push back unless you want to be staunch on the static definition of war crime. If you want to accept the way it is now, you should just say it's a war crime. You should just say that there's different levels of war crimes. There's more egregious war crimes in the way you perceive it, and that's totally fine. You just add that modifier on there. That's it. I don't think that it needs to be that you're just going to push back on the broad usage of war crime now. I mean, I don't think that's not the route you want to go, right? And just to be clear, I think we need, I think if you guys think that this can't be settled, I think we need to have Tia Zihalala Nestinosiayasa and Ima come up, and I think that they will be very good.
I think Erin has been trying to talk as well. I don't know whether she...
Erin. Yeah, for sure. Let me get these guys up too. Go ahead, Erin.
I was just curious, which war crime is Piper suggesting that is being committed? He said Piper said that they're going along, the ICC court, and I looked it up, and it says that war crimes include torture, mutilation, corporal punishment, hostage taking, and acts of terrorism. This category also covers violations of human dignity, such as rape and forced prostitution, looting, and execution without trial. war crimes, unlike crimes against humanity, are always committed in times of war. So which war crime is Piper suggesting that Israel committed?
Yeah, there's a war crime that relates to forced expulsion of a population, like forced migration of a population. So that's the particular one I was talking about in that instance. I could go on, but that's the example that I chose to use.
So you're saying like resettling or asking or saying like we're going to be bombing like northern Gaza, you guys need to move. That would be considered war crime.
No, I'm saying that and then bombing the route along the way is a war.
Yeah, those ones are the clear war crimes, but even, I think technically, trying to strategize, because I think maybe they didn't take legal advice, but Netanyahu was discussing how he's discussing with neighboring countries how to take people who would, and that's just who wanted to move, and that's just compounding their problems, because it shows evidence that they were actually trying to expel the people from there permanently and stuff. So, so that one's like less, because it's just like, oh, they talk to somebody about how to take the people. But when you add it with things like bombing their routes as they're escaping, that's like very clear.
Yeah, that's good. Mark and Ema, salam alaikum.
I've not heard him talk on this, right? He's probably going to be charged since he's actually from there.
I mean, I had a pretty rational conversation with him about it like a week ago or so.
Okay.
Yeah, Ema, welcome.
He's American. He's not from.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I was thinking about Roddy and stuff, right? But even him, right, he has like strong emotional ties to that as well.
I lived in Israel for 7 years. Yeah, without America.
Well, Himothy says allegedly, but
allegedly.
I'm not saying he is. I'm saying he's an American, right? First and foremost.
I am an American.
Yeah. That's.
Ema, would you say that Israel and Palestine are both guilty of war crimes?
Probably.
Praise God.
If I'm being honest, probably. I mean, I don't think they're equal. I mean, in other words, I don't think Hamas and Israel can be equated, but I'm pretty sure both are guilty of war crimes.
Dare I ask which one you think is more guilty?
I think if you look at the motivations of each, and this will be unfair a little bit, Piper, I think, but and it's only because I'm so anti them. Like, I want to exclude all of the horrible genocidal comments from Netanyahu and Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, because I know that they are not representative of general Israeli society. But even with those, right, the motivations of the IDF here and the motivations of Hamas, I think, are wildly different. I'm not that pleased with how Israel has conducted the war. But I also understand that this particular kind of warfare is quite dynamic and difficult. And from what I know from knowing Israeli soldiers and knowing somewhat a little bit about how the Israeli army works, those rooms where these kinds of things are decided, these are hot debates, right? I'll give you an interesting example of something that's part of every unit in the Israeli army. There's something called the 11th man. And the 11th man is supposed to challenge the...
Bro, I thought that was just in World War Z. I legit thought that was just a World War Z shit. Don't even...
No, this is real. This is an actual thing in the Israeli army, that there's a person whose job it is in the unit to give the alternate opinion so that there can be real consideration of like all of as many options as possible. And that's part of the culture of the Israeli army, despite the fact that they've been horribly brutal in this war. So who's more guilty? Everyone's guilty in a war, right? In other words, all wars are crimes. And yeah, I hope it ends soon. I hope hostages are home. I hope fighting stops, and I hope somebody's smart to figure out what happens on the day after.
I've forgotten what question you were answering though. Were you not answering like which side did bigger war crimes?
Look, there's always with Israel Palestine. There's like the immediate flare up, and there's the context, the broader context of all of that. You can start that wherever you like, right? The immediate context of this is gotta remember, before October 7th, there was a looming peace deal, normalization deal with the Saudis, right? In the context of that, Hamas launched their attack, and then you have the war, right? So that's like the immediate. The larger thing is obviously, Hamas takeover of Gaza, the decade and a half of siege on Gaza by the Israelis and the Egyptians, and the blockade, and you can extend that occupation. Generally, most of those people who live in Gaza have permanent refugee status, and are actually not from there. Some are from there, but a lot are like displaced from other wars. So it's like incredibly intractable, right? There's nobody who's not guilty. But yeah, I think like the motivations of each should be looked at. And I'm not saying each side is monolithic. No side is monolithic. And the truth of the matter is, I think no one's going anywhere. Israelis aren't going anywhere. Palestinians aren't going anywhere. So you want to have like endless war until everyone's dead, or is somebody going to like figure out what to do?
That's good. Thank you.
So what was the answer?
What's the answer?
You started by saying Israel or Palestine.
Well, I'm still, perhaps naively, a two-state person, right? These are not societies.
Oh my God, can you just answer the question?
I don't know.
He's not answering.
No, it's clear he doesn't want to answer. He doesn't want to answer.
He doesn't want to answer.
What you want me to say who's worse?
Yes.
Correct.
I think Hamas is worse.
Okay.
No problem.
What's that like based on?
I apologize. I didn't
What's
get
the
that
criteria?
question really asked. I apologize. What's the criteria?
Yeah, why? How do you reach that?
I suppose it's a number of things. I don't want to try to like pull at people's emotions, right? But I think the kinds of things that we saw them live stream on the 7th are very, very different than the atrocities that Gazans are experiencing. The cruelty, right? The psychological components of the warfare. It's just on a different level. I'm not even sure they're on the same page. So I guess it's something like those criteria. And again, I don't like the talking point of Israel's the most moral army in the world. It's obviously not true.
Just so I understand what you said. You said cruelty and psychological damage. So those are the criteria.
Well, the abundance of those things, right? The deliberate using of those things, right? The deliberate putting their civilians in harm's way. Like all of these things are part of, I think, a program that doesn't value anything about life. Not a single thing. And I think it leads them to be totally cruel. Rape, right? The kind of like bodily mutilation, the parading of prisoners around town, right? The handing out of sweets and candy when Hamas kills Israelis and Jews, right? Like these are cruel, right? That is not what happened.
Are you talking about Hamas or are you talking about the Palestinian population? What was the relevance of that last part?
Which one?
You said they were handing out sweets and candy while Hamas paraded the bodies of the Israeli victims.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, so who's passing out the candy?
Hamas.
Oh, okay. So
And Palestinians who support Hamas.
Yeah, but we were talking about Hamas. So you think it's like a more systemic issue? You think it's a Palestinian issue? You think the Palestinians are more cruel?
No. I don't think Palestinians are more cruel. I think Hamas is exceptionally cruel.
Okay, yeah, cool. So I just that last part was a bit okay. Maybe what you meant is like the fact that they would parade the people and then hand out candy. That's the cruelty part. Okay. Maybe I misunderstood.
Look, I think there's a psychological component there too. With the right, in other words, if you teach kids that they get candy, right, when there's a terrorist attack and it kills Israelis, right, like that teaches something.
Yeah, like operant conditioning. What the thing is though, wasn't the IDF are kind of guilty of similar kind of sinister black propaganda and kind of like dehumanizing tactics and mocking and stuff of Palestinian civilians, right?
There is.
They kind of give you that.
I'm not. Yeah, look, I can't deny the things that people say that are recorded, right? I'm not going to deny them. That there's no government that represents, no representative of any government that represents all of the people, right? And the leaders are the leaders, right? They are the ones that are making policy today, right? So I don't deny any of that. I have aspirations.
I'm saying if it's like a qualitative analysis, well, they're both kind of guilty. So I mean, clearly, I don't think you deny the fact that there is like clear psychological trauma being caused by Israel and having its effects within the Palestinian population, right? And then I don't think you just didn't disagree with the fact that Israeli soldiers are guilty of the same feats, if you like, of cruelty.
No, but that's no. I want to restate that. I want to clarify that. No, okay. Perhaps individual Israeli soldiers, perhaps, but the missions are not stated with "be as cruel as possible."
But that's not true for Palestinians.
No, I don't think so. I think Hamas receives instructions to be as cruel as possible.
No, but you can find. If we're talking,
you're not understanding what I'm saying. Are you not? I don't think you're understanding.
No, I am. I'm responding to it.
So say it. So restate it.
Yeah.
Restate it.
You think it's mandated. You think the cruelty is policy, and you don't think that's the case with Israel. Now, irrespective, let me not target Israel for now. I'll just target the Palestinians. Well, if we're going to take from primary source, the primary source objectives were not to target civilians. In fact, they regard civilians as collateral in a similar way to Israel's concession of collateral damage, right? So that's just true.
So first of all, please produce that document that says their objective was not to attack civilians. Secondly,
hold on.
No. One second, please.
All right.
Okay, please produce that. I've not seen that, and I'd be curious to see it.
So then, but why would you assume it was that then? Why would you assume it was the opposite? If you've not seen any.
Excuse me, Timothy. You mentioned the source, and I imagine that you'd be able to produce it. And if you can, I'd like to see it.
You're not right now. I'm driving. I can though. Yeah. I can give it to you.
Okay, that's great. I'm not denying or anything. I'm saying I had. Okay, please just produce it. Now I've lost my train of thought. I understand differently, right? But even if that was the case, that I do think it's.
Can I make one other point? On that?
I'd like to. I'd like to not be interrupted. I'm losing my train of thought. Please. Thank you. I do think it's policy, the cruelty, and if it was the object to only capture, to only attack military targets, you got to explain so many of the civilian deaths, and you have to explain the civilian counts, right? Including 1-year-olds, right? A kid just celebrated his 1-year-old birthday as a hostage, right? So that has to be answered for if the objective is in fact only military.
Wait, is Timothy actually claiming that the objective wasn't to take civilian hostages?
It sounds like that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I understand that.
Which I mean, I think that's kind of laughable to think that.
Yeah,
I don't know how anyone gets to
I
that.
just told you I was doing that.
Okay, but so how do you account for that for civilian captives and the killing of civilians?
I think
And please don't say that Israeli Apache helicopters killed the majority of them. Don't say that.
Okay, killing civilians. Sorry.
The kid's first birthday?
Targeting civilians and being responsible for civilian casualties, right? And to say directly targeting civilians to kill them, which presumably is what you take to be indicative of cruelty. Because it couldn't just be the case for, you just saying like just targeting anyone for as a hostage, that's just evidence of the cruelty of which you speak.
Well,
That's what you mean.
No, Timothy, I'm really sorry.
Right, you mean targeting them to kill them, right? You mean like their goal was to kill as many, because that's what you spoke about. That level of barbarism.
Absolutely.
So right, and that's what I responded to. I said that's what I deny. I deny that was their purported goal, but that could have been their goal. I'm not saying it isn't. And I said the first piece of evidence. Not to take hostages. Everyone stop talking while I'm fucking talking. All right, cheers. But the reason I interrupted you, apologies for it, was to make an addendum, which was actually the video that often gets cited about, Hamas claiming that they will do October 7th again, where they have like this fucking Hamas official that spoke on some Qatari television station, right? This guy, he specifically said, or I think explicitly said, I should say, sorry, that we weren't trying to kill civilians. It just kind of happened, or something to that effect. Again, it was incidental. It wasn't our intention.
Yeah. Look,
Timothy. No. Stop! Don't fucking interrupt me. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm not saying he's a fucking moral figure or an unscrupulous figure. All I'm saying is that isn't the case. That their purported goals, their mandate, what their stated intentions were to kill civilians. Clearly that's
so then they're terrible. So no, I don't agree. And if that was not their stated goal, really, I don't believe that they differentiate between military targets and civilian targets. I think they think they're all the same.
But that's not the point. I'm not saying what their actual intentions are. I think Israel is a genocidal rogue state. Irrespective, it's like what we can prove here. So what I'm saying is what is the primary source you have that suggests that their intent was to kill civilians?
Because
if you don't have it, then why do you have an alternative opinion?
Innocent. They killed.
I mean, they did kill civilians.
Hundreds and hundreds of civilians.
Bro, you're fucking monkey.
No, Timothy, come on. You're asking us. Wait a second. Wait, mix that.
Guys,
I want to clarify the question. Okay. Are you asking me to not consider the actual things that happened and try to ascribe motivation?
Please, yes.
That's not. No, can't be done.
I'm asking. Please. Okay, that's fine. You just can't respond. You can't engage, and you just can't engage, and that's not a problem.
No, you're just no, Timothy. Look, fine. Let me entertain you for a second. I'll entertain this question. Okay. What do we know about Hamas before this? Okay.
That's again not relevant.
Okay. So then, Timothy, what is relevant? What would be relevant?
Yes.
What would be relevant?
Yes, the contention I presented was. You actually may, right? And I said, what do you have? Primary source. Evidence or support for the claim that it was their stated intent to kill as many civilians as they could, or kill some quantity of civilians. And if the answer is no, I've made inferences. No, we have this secondary source information from the Israelis that we believe that is purported to be primary source, i.e. taken off one of the assailants or the terrorists, then cool, then I'll accept that. Hey, that's your reason for believing that thing. But you actually have just counter evidence and say, actually, no, here, this says this on Hamas's telegram. This is what Hamas official was quoted as saying this. Okay, well, you have that evidence. You just don't have evidence.
Timothy.
And you say, no.
Timothy, I will be. Okay. No. Let me just finish this up with Timothy. I'm happy to pass it to Mike. Okay. I have read reports that such things exist. I'll tell you that I have not seen them firsthand. I have read reports that such things exist. You stated that you have seen something, and I'd like to see it. Okay.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I think we're both on the same. Equal footing here.
Provided a link to demonstrate your point is true. There's a link in the chat demonstrating Hamas
Just to be clear,
document saying that they're targeting children. So look in the chat. There's your document you want.
Provided for you by Israelis from Hamas terrorists, most likely. But that aside, anyway, which I run, like that can give you motivation to hold the belief. I'm not going to dispute that. What I asked for was pretty specific, and one of the pieces of evidence, just to be clear, you and I agree on, Emma, right? We agree that actually, when addressing the public, this in quotes, Hamas official did purport to unintentionally be responsible for civilian casualties, but denied express intent to kill those civilians, to target those civilians, to kill them, right? But the other evidence I have, all I would have, right, is from the day after, so I think it would be October 8th, the Operation Alexa Flood was stated on either their Telegram or either, I think they have a website that was linked to their Telegram, so that was how it was proven to be official, their in quotes official Telegram. But that had a statement of the objective that was like target for 14 military bases and blah, blah, blah. And this is target civilians to capture. That 100% is true. But none of it stated, kill civilians or maximize civilian casualties, blah, 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 blah. So that's the only real evidence I have. And I can provide you the second link, and the first link I can provide it to you if you want, but I thought we agreed that actually that was that was the statements made by the...
No, we did not agree. We did not agree. What I heard him say, right, which I think is the only important thing, is that we'll do it again.
Okay.
That was the important thing. That was the most important thing, that we will do it again and again and again.
Okay, but you didn't hear him say when asked that no, we didn't. It wasn't our goal to kill civilians.
No, I did not hear that, and I don't believe, and I wouldn't believe him if he said it.
But we have independent reported documents of Hamas planning attacks against innocent civilians. So, what is the counter?
It's really upsetting.
Say that again, sorry?
The baby. That's really his first birthday?
What do you mean?
Yes, Kfir Bibas. His name is Kfir Bibas, and he was kidnapped with his mother and his father.
Redhead, right?
The little redhead, and he's just celebrated his first birthday.
Yeah. Oh, wait, the hostage, you're saying?
Yes, the hostage.
Yeah, that's horrific. What do you mean? They're fucking evil people, bro. Who kidnapped the baby? It's fucked up.
That's what I'm saying. The cruelty is the point. The cruelty is the point, Timothy.
Yeah, I agree. I think all the Israeli ministers that are responsible for these just fucking egregious, inhumane statements that they're making, that are also responsible for orchestrating what is currently what I accept to be currently occurring genocide. I think they're fucking evil too. Pandemic games like silly. It's like a waste of time.
I'm gonna say something controversial here, right? I think if Hamas had 2,000-pound bombs like Israel, they might not have to resort to what they would do. They'll just do that and
100%.
And they wouldn't have to do all these tactics of and then we kidnap a couple people. They'll just drop the 2,000-pound bombs, just like Israel, and claim, well, we didn't torture anybody, we didn't do anything, we just bombed the place.
Very clean, very quick.
It's like everyone's just using whatever they've got, right? I'm not. You're right. It comes across as if when you say things like this, it looks like you're condoning it, but
that is also true. That's also true about the whole notion of it discriminating.
I thought you meant that's also true. I'm condoning it.
No. I'm saying no. It's true about this distinction between discriminate and indiscriminate. Because discriminate and indiscriminate in international law is based
solely, it seems, on the kind of weaponry you have access to. So if you're fighting a low-tech war, let's say if it's asymmetrical warfare and you don't have access to sophisticated weaponry, then essentially you're just going to be guilty, right, by default of engaging in an indiscriminate warfare. Nobody is, though, because look, if all of the weapons at your disposal, hold on. If you have no guided missiles at your disposal, you have no precision missiles or precision weaponry at your disposal, then arguably anybody you kill as a result. So let's say 5 children are killed today in Jenin, and as a response, the Palestinians fire mortars into Eretz Israel, right? It's like, well, that's good. That's just instantly they're guilty of indiscriminately targeting civilians, right?
Can I explain?
That's all they have access to.
Can I now?
All right, here we go. Whatever.
Okay, October 7th would be a good test case to see how they could have discriminately killed. They could have come in, killed as many civilians as they wanted, straight up, occupied homes, taken the homes, tried to actually claim ownership of greater region than what they had. That would have been a conquest. That would have been a discriminate, reasoned killing. Instead, they killed many civilians and ran back home, or an immediate retreat in military terms. Which is to say, they're either cowardly, militarily just murderous, or indiscriminate. Right? They didn't care. There was no goal. There was no goal beyond the death and the return. They succeeded in their goals.
We're not talking about October 7th. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying the charges of
That's not discriminate.
The charges of indiscriminate attacks. The charges of indiscriminate
Because they don't have a legitimate goal. Their legitimate goal, as understood by all, was death.
Okay, can you stop fucking repeating the same shit?
Can I ask you a question?
We're not discussing.
Israel's legitimate goal is to destroy the pillars.
Wait, this is a really important question. This is a very.
Let me make the point.
Let him finish the point he's making, then you can continue.
Right. The point is, the charges of indiscriminate attacks that have been leveled at Hamas, right, are irrespective of their fucking goals and stated intent or stated objectives when they fire missiles or rockets or mortars into Israel, the Holy Land, right? Because what constitutes the indiscriminate nature of the attacks is the lack of precision that the weaponry possesses. And that's what's been deemed as an indiscriminate attack. Now, clearly, there are stated military objectives, and there is flagrant contraventions of humanitarian law during October 7th. We don't need to appeal to the weaponry and stuff. Clearly, they've breached all fucking human rights laws and are guilty of war crimes for reasons other than the choice of weaponry. So that's just that's a moot point about October 7th. We agree there's insane quantity of war crimes being committed. But yeah, go on, Greg.
Okay, this is a very key question. And I think we saw it actually in the South African presentation and the Israeli, this exact question. Okay. Mm-hmm. Why don't you want to talk about the events of October 7th? They seem to not be relevant in your analysis of who's to blame, or right? You're willing to consider Israeli military actions. I'm not sure why you're not willing to consider the actual events of October 7th.
Who's not though? I don't know.
You're not every time. Perhaps I'm mishearing. But what I'm hearing is every time somebody, I've done it, Michael's done it, brings up the events of actual, you say that's not relevant.
So I might be super confused. This might be my mistake. Did you and I not speak for about 15 minutes about the stated goals of October 7th? Not 5 minutes ago.
No, you asked me to consider the motive.
That's not my goal.
You asked me. One second. You asked me to consider the motivations without considering the events of October 7th.
Yeah, but what were we talking about? What was the topic?
No, hold on. Just please tell me that you understand.
No, I understand. You're going to qualify your statement now, and maybe I'll answer another question. But the initial question is, why does no one want to talk about October 7th? When literally the discussion we were having was what were the...
No, I'm sorry. This feels like you're being obtuse at this moment. Sorry.
No, so you want to make, so let's just be clear. You want to make another point, and this other point is basically why don't we want to discuss the graphic and gruesome details, right? That's what you want to ask, right? Well, why am I not super interested in discussing horrors and the atrocities?
What I'm asking,
That's what you want.
what I'm asking is, aren't they relevant? Don't you think they're relevant?
What?
Because I do.
To what?
You're asking questions about the stated goals of Hamas, but you don't want to talk about what they actually did. And I don't get that.
But what does what they did have to do with what they stated they were going to do? I'm confused.
What does Israel say? I mean, I can reverse the question, right? What does what Israel actually did have anything to do with their stated goal? Now you're just going to say. Now you're just going to say that their stated goal is genocidal, and I'm going to disagree with that, right?
No, I mean,
in the same way, look, what's unfortunate here, and I'm probably willing to go.
I think you start again, reset it, and don't bring this kind of like accusatory.
It's not accusatory.
No, listen.
It's not
hypocrisy. It's just like ask me questions about genuinely what I think about this. I think it'd be like easier because I'm trying to discern why precisely. Did you kind of allude to like how being hypocritical?
Fine. Here's a different approach. Fine.
All right.
Given your view of the stated objectives and your seeing what happened on October the 7th, right? The actual events, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you understand and square the gap between their stated objectives and what actually happened?
I mean, I'm probably like you. I'm like more inclined to believe that probably, at the very least, there was like a reckless abandon being employed by the militants or terrorists or whatever you want to call them, right? Like, but I probably lean more towards the fact that at least, okay, I don't really know anything about their structure or strategy, right? So probably on an individual level, I reckon there was definitely. Sorry, 1 second. Let me check. Bear with me 1 second. I don't know what it's where.
So you just want to make a bad apple argument.
The bad apple.
Not really. I don't know what that is.
There's bad apples in every group, and people went crazy and whatever, and you just want to make that.
No.
He said,
I gotta say, Timothy, I just think it's a little wild. That like, say what you want about Israel, okay? And I can be critical of Israel. I can hear it, okay? I probably don't. I'm not willing to engage with you on that. But let's just go with all the things that you believe for a moment, okay? I still think you have to view Hamas. I was going to say Chabad. Slip of the tongue. Hamas. You have to view Hamas in a totally different light. They are. They're just not the same. The cruelty is the point, right? The terrorizing of an entire nation, right? And again, I'm not minimizing the suffering of Gazans. Never. It is horrible, but the reasons are not the same. Hamas is just cruel. They are just.
What was your initial? Sorry, I might be still on. What was your initial question that I didn't respond to?
The question is, how do you? It seems that if you're stated, given their stated goals and given the actual events, there seems to be a gap in that. How do you? How do you analyze that?
Well, I think it's true of like probably most military kind of organizations or institutions that they're gonna like firstly then they're not always gonna beforehand state their goals and they want some level of like subterfuge, right? So they're not gonna always express clearly what their intent is. However, in this event, I think like clearly given all of the animus between the two parties and given that they've been engaged in like this hot conflict for the past however many years, 20, 30 years, I don't think it's like I think it's somewhat probable that malicious intent would have been encouraged, right? So, okay, hey, don't kill civilians, but nobody's going to be reprimanded for killing civilians, and everybody knows that. Like, I don't think that's. If you're saying like, hey, basically, does like what's on the stated objectives on the website reflect the kind of mission statement that was given? I don't see why not.
I think that's wild. I think that's like so generous that I can't imagine why anybody would want to do that. That seems to be like there's a lot of protecting of Hamas, and I don't understand why.
Well, I'm very ignorant though. Like, I just want to be clear. I'm very ignorant.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, that's.
No, but I told you that at the beginning. I said, I don't know much about their organization. And clearly, there is far more resources available for the IDF than there is for fucking Hamas because they're a designated terror organization, right? So it's like far easier. And they're a government that's been besieged for the past 20 years, for the past 17 years.
So you're saying it's time.
No, listen, you're asking me the question. Essentially, this is what you're asking me. You're saying, when they capture one of these terrorists and they find some objectives, mission objectives in their back pocket, does that reflect the objectives given to them by the upper apparat of the organization? And I'm saying, to be honest, I tend to think it probably isn't. I'd say in off the gates, I just think it's a bit. I think given that you could cause a lot more damage by not going on a sporadic kind of. Then again, you want to say, I guess maybe hey, their goal was to cause damage by going on.
Let's talk about goals. Hold on, let's talk about goals for a second, okay? So Gaza receives X amount of dollars and physical supplies. Even throughout the blockade, hundreds of trucks a day. Right? Now, you're Hamas, right? What do you decide to do with the stuff that's meant to be received by the people, to feed them and house them and clothe them? What do you suppose would be the rational thing to do, given that every couple of years there's a flare-up and Israel comes with some amount of response? There's a lot of Palestinians that die. Some Israelis die, and that basically repeated every couple of years. So what would you do with all of those supplies? And before you answer, I'll tell you exactly what Hamas did do with those supplies.
That was a weird wind-up.
Thank you.
They built a network of tunnels to attack Israel. They didn't do anything to protect their civilians. No, they built it with the concrete that came in that was supposed to be for building infrastructure and housing.
But they did. They built secret tunnel infrastructure. They can build whatever they want, right?
They can build whatever they want, but we can look. Do you think we can look backwards? Here's a more general question. Do you think we can look backwards at past events and try to analyze motivations?
No, but can I
and do you think it matters?
Wait. If you take Castlet, Protective Edge, the billions of dollars in damages that Israel has been responsible for over Hamas's tenure, and then now it was being used as kind of counter propaganda of this assertion that Gaza is an open prison. People show People show promotional material of fucking resorts in Gaza City and all that. Where does that stuff come from then?
Okay, so
great.
No, it's a great. Yeah. I hear it. It's great. Yeah. Okay, so I think there's a difference between. No, not great. But I think Okay, I think there's a difference between assholes, right, making brochures for the new Jewish housing units in Gush Katif, right, and taking, I would say, stealing billions of dollars in world aid, both from Europe and the United States and Israel, by the way, right? And stealing that money and abusing it to be part of some kind of global war against the West, right? And in particular, Israel. So I just think those are really different.
I get what you're saying. You just asked me a question. Firstly, again, I'm going to have complete ignorance on this. Because no, I'm not some forensic, some financial forensic analyst I'm going to tell you this is where all the money's been siphoned off from. One thing I do know is there is this controversy surrounding Israel withholding Gazans taxes, which would imply that they act as some kind of like proxy or buffer between taxpayers and Hamas receiving money for like things like municipal services. But also, like as you know, Norman Finkelstein unfortunately puts it, or is quoted, some Israelis are saying, they like routinely mow the lawn in Gaza, right? But that doesn't just refer to the population, but also refers to the infrastructure. So you're talking about like, hey, what are these people doing with all this money under this like kind of specter of having your city completely leveled every
So I'll tell you what I would do.
decade. And sorry, I just want to add one point on that, which I think is relevant. The majority of the breaches and ceasefires, which consequently conclude with Gaza being leveled, are Israeli breaches.
That's not accurate.
I can provide you a source for that. That's like I can provide you.
It's just not accurate. It's not accurate.
Okay.
But let's go the other way.
But the issue there though is right. So it seems a bit misguided of someone to focus all the attention on like funds for aid being misused, as opposed to the people that are just continually, periodically, absolutely destroying the city. Like,
okay, great. So look, they're connected. No, but they're connected. Don't you understand? They're connected. If you are,
well, they're not if you're the one causing this breaches.
No.
If you're so ignorant on this stuff, why do you keep talking so much?
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, why do people keep addressing me on it? People should stop, right? If I'm failing,
you're defending Hamas. That's why people are.
Well, you're a genocide denier, Mike, so it's fine. I guess we're two people in the same point.
You're claiming.
Hold on. We were having a nice conversation.
Well, I don't know.
Whether or not it's genocide, I don't think it's genocide. I'm not claiming ignorance. You are claiming ignorance, and you're still talking, though. That's the weird thing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so hang on. So Timothy. Okay, like they are connected. No, it's fine, and I appreciate you saying the limits of your knowledge on this.
We get it.
That's fine.
Yeah, look, I'm not denying that.
They're connected. Timothy, the money and the abuse and the mowing the lawn or whatever you want to call it, they're connected. Okay, in this way. If you view yourself, as Hamas does, as a resistance force, right, whose goal ultimately is to throw off their oppressor, right, then it makes a lot of sense that they would spend their money on achieving those goals. Now, if you're a different kind of group, right, if you're a government, right, that has an arrangement, all governments have social contracts with the governed, and you live in a reality where Israel mows the lawn periodically, so to speak, wouldn't you want to use the money to maybe like build bomb shelters, or to fortify your buildings, or to have, make alarm systems or something like that, right? That isn't what happened, right? What happened is they built terror tunnels that they used to smuggle and plan operations like we saw. That's on the night.
Yeah, that's fine, but I don't get sorry, maybe I just misunderstood this line that you're taking. Like, you asked me, are you asking like if it's inefficient? Yeah, okay.
No, I'm saying it's counter. The
point I was responding to, though, to be clear, it's conducive to this idea of like they're being motivated purely by cruelty. And I'm saying, there's kind of an issue here, which is like, if it is the case, assume I am able to demonstrate this to you. If it is the case that the majority of these breaches, of these ceasefires, right, and armistices, Israel is responsible for, well, I don't know how much you should apportion to your, like war cabinet or your military arsenal. I don't know, like, is that the right thing to do? I don't fucking know. Should you build?
I don't think that's the right.
Should you build terror tunnels? Should you build terror tunnels so as to enact reprisals? I don't fucking know. But one thing I definitely do know is that
the answer is no.
I seem it's misguided.
The answer is no.
It's kind of misguided. Just think the biggest problem is suboptimal expenditure, right?
Yeah, so here's the problem. Right, so Timothy,
as opposed to why the fucking are you preaching ceasefires consistently?
Okay,
right?
It's not like
slow down.
look, hold on. It's not like Israel hasn't. Wait. You still need to wait. Oh my God.
Wait.
You just stopped talking.
Interrupt. Michael, if you interrupt to tell me I'm ignorant again, I'm gonna fucking remove you. Just tell me.
Look, Israel has spent plenty of money, developing military contingencies in terms of like equipment, right, and strategy and so forth to attack Palestine. Like I don't. Well, how is it condemnable to like build these tunnels? Like what exactly?
So here's the problem with this argument.
2,000 pound bombs.
Okay, here's the problem with this argument, right? Here's the problem with this argument. On the one hand, right, you want to kind of defend Hamas, and on the other hand, you want to like sort of take away the agency of that entirely. What else are they supposed to do?
How did he defend
right? That's basically your argument. Yeah, sure you did. Sure you did.
I didn't defend them. I'm asking. I said what I said.
No, not you, son. Not you, son. This line of why is it so condemnable? Why is it so condemnable to build terror tunnels? Because they're not. I know. So he asked for a response.
So you said he defended Hamas, and I'm saying how did he?
No, you did. You did.
I'm so fucking confused. How did I do it then?
I know.
Who did
because you were
Hamas, and how did they do it?
Timothy. One way that you defended Hamas was to say that because their motivations, right, their stated goals, right, were only military targets, and that the collateral damage is just collateral damage, that those weren't really intended, that's called defending Hamas.
Wait, what? Because I reported accurately that was their stated intent, I'm defending them.
You didn't report accurately. You didn't? 1 second.
I accept they're guilty of war crimes and countless atrocities on the day. Those bad people.
You didn't? You didn't?
Very confused.
What you reported is that you saw a news report. That's what you reported.
No, that's not what he's talking.
That's all I'm hearing. You saw a news report.
It's their stated. They're talking. He's referencing their stated intent, which means this is what they say.
No, he's not. He's. That's what I understand. He's right from a Hamas operative who was on a news show giving an interview.
Yeah, no shit. Who else are you going to get the stated intent?
Yeah, I said primary source. I agree with you that there is non-primary source, and by that I just mean it's purported to be primary source, but it's basically obtained.
Look, Timothy probably agrees that dude's lying.
Oh, so there you go.
I said no. I said that already. I said as much stuff.
Yeah. So if he's lying, then why are we? If he's lying, then why are we considering? Why are we taking it seriously?
No, but you asked me. Basically, does the upper apparatus say to the operatives, "Go out and kill terrorists"?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Timothy, yes, they do.
Look, I already said. I said. Whether or not it's encouraged, I probably would lean towards it being encouraged.
It is.
But the thing that I don't know because I don't know how I don't know about the inner workings of their organization. I don't know if it's like you see those notes that were written by those terrorists having their pockets. I don't know if I don't believe that the senior commanders are writing go out and kill. I don't believe that genuinely. I think
they are. I believe that they are. And you're gonna think this is rude, but. That's okay. It's really the height of a kind of it's just so privileged. Honestly, you really don't understand. You really don't understand.
What turns on this?
I don't understand. You're right.
I don't understand. Look, I don't understand why anybody would need to defend Hamas. That's the thing.
I don't either.
It's like
I don't either.
Yeah, but I'm not sure Timothy is doing that though.
Okay, that's my opinion. We don't have to go down that road. It's fine.
They're under attack. Genocide. There's a lot of people know. No, wait. Stop. I think Israel right now is guilty of genocide. Right? I think they are intentionally putting civilians in harm's way so as to assert demographic superiority. This is what I think the goal is. Right? I don't think individual IDF soldiers, while some of them don't need any excuse, right? Some of them are just bad people. But I think, because I know some IDF soldiers, right? I don't think IDF soldiers are being told by their commanders, go out and kill as many civilians as you can. I don't think that's what happens. I think what happens is they have these targets, they have these objectives, now in commission of these objectives, they end up killing civilians. Some may think it's collateral, some may think it's intentional, but by and large, there is no stated intent within the organization to go out and kill these fucking Palestinian civilians. And I think in some I think it's just
you still think it's a genocide?
I think it's less. I actually think it's less likely. I think it's less likely amongst the Hamas that occurs. All these provisions are in place, but mainly because of how unsophisticated they are. Like I just think that if you have this like biased command.
So then you're taking away their innocence.
Of course. Hold on. Wait.
Now you're taking away their innocence.
Hold on. That's not prerequisite for genocide, right? Because if I think like, there was a Black Mirror episode a long time ago where the idea is that like I don't know they give these soldiers some kind of drug or like a brain chip or something.
Yes, a brain.
So they see the enemy as like a monster, right? And so the idea is basically that, like, even if you don't order them like go and kill as many civilians as you can, right? You can still order them to do things that like result in very similar effects as if you had commanded them to go and try to kill as many civilians.
Right. Instant dehumanization.
But do you guys? I mean, is there the belief that Hamas, like military commanders, are actually discouraging their militants from like attacking civilians? Like, do you think that that's actually an instruction, like avoid civilians? Like, I think there's an instruction, at least,
then you have to,
like on paper, to avoid killing Palestinian civilians for Israeli soldiers. Do you think the same holds true for Hamas?
It may not. I'm not actually sure, right? But like, even if it doesn't, I'm happy to admit that like Hamas is just this like evil organization that needs to be like dealt with, like violently. Like we could all just agree to that up front, right? And it still doesn't justify the particular way that they've gone about doing it, right?
I tend to agree with you, Sully. I don't know any other way. Somebody knows another way.
Well, there's like plenty. That's just lack of imagination. It's not like.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying.
Let's brainstorm ideas for.
No. All I'm saying is that.
How?
Yeah. No, Sully, hold on. Don't misunderstand.
That's not. Obviously, we are taking control. What? No, hold on.
That's what I'm saying. Hold on. Don't misunderstand. I'm just saying I'm not a military strategist, and I would like the military strategist to be. No, I'm saying I would like the military strategist to be more creative.
Yeah,
right. Like,
I agree. Now, like, but the point is this, right? Like, if we're considering, we're saying, okay, the objective is like wipe out Hamas, like basically, or get them to surrender or something, right? And the idea is like, okay,
an option. Surrender.
It's not like the only option on the table for Israel is like to just like artillery strike and level like huge swaths of Gaza. That's not the only option available. That's clearly like a bad strategy, right? And it's not the only one, so
I agree.
It's obviously not.
Okay.
It's certainly it is not. The decisions are being made for whatever reasons they're being made, but you're absolutely right.
I don't know. I think it's a fair question. Like, you're right. It does seem like there's ways you can do it without destroying literally every building there. I don't know if you can keep the deaths down, though. I feel like there are going to be deaths. That's kind of unavoidable.
But
the description does seem kind of wanton, at least to me, but I don't know.
Especially since everyone is important is underground. Like Hamas is all underground in these tunnels, and they know that. So why do they have to level the entire place?
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, right? Like the fear was, as far as I've heard, and this is what I've heard, like Israeli defense ministers and other like IDF officials say, is that they didn't want to go in with like ground troops because of these tunnels, because they would have to be fighting in the tunnels and they didn't know where all the entrances and exits were, and they could be like attacked on all sides, like urban warfare basically. So, but the idea is like, okay, if they're all down in these tunnels, right? You don't have to go into the tunnel. Right? There's, it's almost like if people are like unfamiliar with, I don't know, basic tactics in a sense. You can flush them out, right? Like you can do all kinds of things. Once you find like one entrance to this tunnel system, like.
So this is the strategy. As far as
I'm not trying to get like incredibly morbid here. You know what I mean? So it's not like I want to talk about the kinds of things you could do, but like again, use your imagination.
No, for sure. And from what I understand, this is the strategy, right? Find the terror net, the tunnels, right? And try to flush them out. The
strategy has just been to use penetrating bombs to try to pull them up from the sky.
Look, it's both. I have a friend, a dear friend, who's been in a tank for 100 days. Okay, he's inside of Gaza. He's not in an airplane, not manning a drone. Right? Yes, of course, that stuff is happening. But part of the strategy is also to do the tunnel thing.
Like a few months into this, they can roll in.
Okay, but hold on. But my larger point is this. My larger point is sitting at the tank. Is saying ceasefire because of Palestinians. In Israel, the ceasefire crowd is saying ceasefire because of the hostages. And it's a major part of the public discussion. Why is inside of Israel? Why is Israel conducting the war in this way? Get those damn hostages home. And this isn't working. Right?
Is there any kind of intuition from the people inside Israel? Like, why is it being done this way?
Well, I think you have the segment that says it's Bibi and Smotrich and Ben Gvir and they're bloodthirsty. There's the segment that says that. There's the segment that says there is no other choice because that segment is not willing to give up on the get rid of Hamas goal.
I don't think I want to be straightforward too. Like, if you're gonna attribute malintentions to Netanyahu and his sort of government, I don't think it's just that they're bloodthirsty and they want to kill people. I think what it is it's almost like manifest destiny, where they want to control the whole region. And in the same way that went in the United States, the fact that many thousands to millions of people have to die to accomplish that end is acceptable to them.
I think that could be a component. Yeah, it's defensible. It's reasonable that we can analyze that way. Yeah. So yeah, Michael, I don't know. I think there is this sense that how do you do both? And I think Israeli society is really torn up about it. At the same time as everybody's just
it's not just a function of what
everybody knows someone. Everybody knows someone. You're right.
We wouldn't care. It's not like we cared. Well, what does German society think about this atrocity they're committing? It's no. The world from an external point of view can look at this and say, no, you may think you have the right reasons here, but you don't, and what you're doing is ultimately wrong.
Well, what it matters for is because Israel has a living society. In other words, it's important for the Israeli body politic to work those things out. Whether or not it's important, those phenomena are important for those outside. That could be, maybe not, but as a living, breathing society, as this is not just right. This is day to day, right? And for decades, right? The way it plays there is quite different.
But Israel has.
And when you're talking about the environment, the inculcating environment of a society, there I think it is important not just what the leaders say, but what sociology polls and all those things say. That we should look at Palestinian polls too, by the way. We should understand what.
My issue is that when you try to, it's almost like you try to treat it as an internal problem, where it's okay. It's and it's groups like the CIA who try this kind of attacks, where you just say no. This is for us to regulate ourselves.
It's also an internal problem.
Israel receives massive support from the United States and from Europe, and it's not just up to them.
Agreed.
There are actions that the international community can take, right, in response to their behaviors. And I'm not talking about I'm just saying look, they get a lot of free shit from us,
Look, I'm not saying it's the only. I'm not saying it's the only thing, but it is one of the things. And it's a different conversation, right? That's also taking place alongside the larger geopolitical one. But yeah, the world could decide to condition aid. It's a conversation happening now. Bernie brought that
because
bill.
what else? Like, where else is this going to go? Like, one of the things that's like I haven't heard spoken about much is that look, like the Middle East is an unstable like geopolitical region, right? Like things are already happening related to this like crisis that involve Iran, Yemen, Saudi, like all these countries, where the United States could get like drawn into like a full scale like conflict,
Well, I think we're there. No, I think we're there already.
Pretty damn close, yeah.
In the beginning stages of it. Well, I mean, they're attacking. It's the Houthis thing, and this is going to just continue. Yeah. I want to go. Everything is different now, but there was a moment there wasn't exactly like what we experienced with Oslo and Rabin, but there was something hopeful about an impending Saudi deal, along with the Abraham Accords. There was something that felt like was moving, and I think that's over. But that I think is what the transformation of the Middle East will look like. I think the Emirates are a great example of that. Dubai and all of those things, right? But I think America's in it, and they've played their cards and they have chosen a side, right? It's very clear. Whether that's right or not is a different story, but I think never before has an American president sat in the Israeli war room. Never before has that happened. Okay, like America and Israel aren't going anywhere with each other.
Yeah, but that's like massively problematic.
How do you figure?
I mean, like I just explained why, right? Because like, look, it's clear that like Israel acts in some ways like independent of the United States, right? And they do things where it actually pushes
in most ways.
I understand. At first, the U.S. wants to say, there's going to be no red lines for Israel. And then they have to almost start walking this back because they see like how extreme this response has been, right? And the idea is like, look, you don't want to ally with countries that will pull you into conflicts, right? Where if they had just like acted more rationally, right, that wouldn't have happened. It's just not a good idea to be in those kinds of relationships with countries that are that like sort of. I mean, I don't even want to say it's unpredictable because I think it is predictable based on past behaviors, but like,
reckless
countries that are very like, risk oriented, like are willing to put themselves like at risk,
But like, who are you saying is like a better partner for America, like France or England or?
Are you talking about like a better partner?
Well, you're saying that they're like a dangerous partner for the Middle East because they engage in this reckless, violent activity that will draw American interests into greater conflict. Yeah. And you're saying that's a bad partner. But, like, what are you saying? Like, should we side with Iran, Saudi, Pakistan?
We already side with Saudi.
I know, we are on side with
Saudi. I don't know, like... We don't have to like side with quote unquote any of them, right? To the degree where we're going to allow them to draw us into.
What about no one? What about everybody else?
The American perspective now. We're watching.
What about everybody else?
Look, we are allowing it to threaten our interests to the extent that we're willing to get involved directly. Military conflict. It's already happening. It's like it's not good.
Yeah, but we're now from outside. Before we were in Afghanistan, and we did hold down the region, and we left, not the whole region, obviously, just Afghanistan. And that was a loss. They took over,
took all of the
I would see that as a loss. I mean, look, do you understand, do you understand what a drain Afghanistan was? Okay, well, you don't understand what a drain Afghanistan was on the United States. You don't understand how much money was spent. Yeah, for what end, though? Were we just supposed to, did you want to make Afghanistan a U.S. colony?
Military strategy, and you lost.
Do you want to make I'm sorry, but what should, who are you even criticizing? Bush? Like, of course I criticize Bush. They should have gone into Afghanistan. I don't understand.
It wasn't.
No, I think he's just saying. No, I think he's just saying that the exit left a vacuum that has rearisen.
Everybody knew that's what was going to happen.
Right, exactly.
What was it? Okay, but what's the alternative? You just want to occupy Afghanistan forever? I don't understand.
Calm down. That's exactly.
What do you mean calm down? I'm asking you what you think they should have done.
You like to say you should chill.
Can you answer the question? I'm asking you what you think they should have done.
I'm not saying that it's like a bad move. I'm just describing that's what they did. And I don't know why you're like.
Obviously, that's what they did.
Okay, I'm not sure why they're surprised at the idea that we're now monitoring the region from the seas.
What are you talking about?
The Houthis.
No, but what are you saying?
He's saying that American boots. He's saying American boots aren't on the ground yet. This is all the American involvement is now from aircraft carriers and that's right.
So,
like,
what's your point? What?
I think you're getting what you asked.
I'm getting what I asked.
It was a drain on the economy. It was a lot to occupy Afghanistan. It's much cheaper to float around the seas.
I do not understand what your point is supposed to be.
Neither do I, for what it's worth.
I'll tell you. The point is this. Your concern of America having a partner in the region that does have boots on the ground and a vested interest in the literal region, as they step away to allow it to descend into whatever chaos that they don't really have to deal with, I just don't understand why you think they should have a different partner.
Okay, you're missing the point.
Which partner should they have then? Iran?
Let me make the point more clear. Right? When the U.S. allies with a country, right, it gives them a little bit more confidence in terms of what their capacities are for these sorts of engagements. Especially if they know that the U.S., no matter what, will always support them. Right? So no matter what we do, the U.S. is going to have our back. Okay. And, depending on what we do, we could draw them into a full-scale conflict. Right? Because they're our ally. In the sense that they will defend us it's like Article 5 level, where, an attack on one is an attack on all. Right? That kind of arrangement. Okay, it's going to make it easier for Israel to be reckless. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? The whole influence that has on what they do is a problem.
But not from an American perspective.
Are you saying from an American perspective?
To be contained.
Okay, that's what I'm struggling to understand. How
you gotta contain them Jews.
That I have a partner that's
they'll get out of control.
Down the law over there. Why does that affect my American interests?
What do you mean? Okay, because we don't want large-scale conflicts. That's against our interests.
Yeah, that's what the sheriff is for.
But how can you have a large-scale conflict if Israel's the size of New Jersey?
What?
Small, man. Can't get big. Big conflicts.
Have the bomb, dude. New Jersey doesn't have a bomb. North Dakota has a bomb. You could compare to North Dakota if you want.
No. I do not want to do that.
North Dakota. Good, thank you. Now sorry, continue.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Alright. We can just get rid of this dude. He's
give him another chance.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, what did I miss?
Israel. I mean, did you understand my point? Makes sense.
I don't really understand your concern from an American interest perspective. It sounds like what you're saying is there's a rough and tumble region, gold to get, and we got a sheriff there that's laying down the law harsh.
No, let me explain. Okay, well that's an incredibly childish way to view like geopolitics. But whatever. Okay, here's what I'm saying, right? It's in American interest. Peace in the Middle East is in the interest of the United States. What I'm saying, why? Okay, there's like a million reasons why, right? Like one is economic stability, right? One is that, you know, people, if there's peace in the Middle East, then there's probably going to be less military threat to the United States. I mean, there's like, is that like a serious question? Like, why would a peaceful Middle East be in the U.S. interest?
Well, yes,
that's a serious question.
Far away from the Middle East.
What?
America.
Yeah, what about America? It's far away. That's your argument.
For their lack of concern. Yeah.
So like so nothing that's far away should concern the U.S. interest. Is that what you're saying?
George Washington said that.
Oh my God, dude. Okay, this is like. How are you this hardcore of a troll? I don't understand
Just
how a person becomes like.
Why you believe peace in the Middle East is specifically in America's interest?
I just gave reasons.
Broadly, peace is good. Okay, yeah, I agree. But like some.
I just gave 2 reasons why.
Okay, those 2 reasons.
I just gave them.
Yeah, could you say them again, please?
Oh my God.
Economics, he said that.
Promotes economic stability, right? Which promotes trade. It also reduces the risk of some threat against the United States.
So then, if there's going to be an economic burden and a military pop-off, then it seems what I would want there is a sheriff, right? Like someone to maintain peace in the region?
No, I think what you're doing is by using this like cartoonish like sheriff analogy, you're missing the point of what I said before, which is that like the degree of sort of alliance, the degree of alliance that the U.S. has with Israel militarily, right, is effectively giving Israel a blank check to do reckless acts.
Yeah, you're repeating.
Which they have a history of doing. Okay, well then respond to the point because you haven't addressed it. That's why I'm repeating.
Okay, Sully, slowly. You said you wanted peace in the region. We have a historic way of maintaining peace. It's usually policing. Is that wrong? Am I incorrect?
Yeah, that makes no sense.
That makes no sense. Okay, how are you going to get peace without policing? Go ahead.
So, like, you know when 2 countries sign peace treaties, right?
Yeah.
You think that requires police?
Yes.
Okay, why?
Well, because you said there were 2 countries involved, right?
Yep.
I've never heard of a country that doesn't have police.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. I'm
not understanding. The United States and Russia signs a treaty. Who's going to enforce it? Who's the police then?
Literally the police, like whoever it is that abides by the document. You have the army of officers that tells you all, guess what? We're friends with Russia now.
Those countries are the entities.
The what you guys think happens around you in this country.
The two countries are the 2 entities. If one country breaks the treaty, who's going to enforce? Who's the police in this scenario? That is the 2
probably the other country.
Exactly. There shouldn't be no police. It's 2 countries, bro.
What are you talking about? Seriously, what do you guys think a country is? You explain a country.
How are you at the point where you're asking what a country? It's not about whether the country has police in it.
It has nothing to do.
Oh my God!
It has nothing to do with police in the country.
How do you sign these deals? How do you guys like live every day?
Dude, your point was that you wanted Israel as a state to act as the sheriff of this region. Okay, we're not talking about police departments in Israel or the United States. Like what?
Police departments? No, we didn't talk about police departments.
Do you think it's a bad move to hire a sheriff who is like constantly causing issues for your interests and like instability in the community? Does that make sense? Like even in your analogy, that makes no sense.
Yes, that makes perfect.
You would fire that guy, or you would rein him in. You say like, hey, listen, if you keep acting like this, I'm not going to give you as much shit. You know, like is that so insane to understand?
No, that makes perfect sense. If you have a bad sheriff, you fire the sheriff.
But the idea, I thought,
why do you want a fucking sheriff, you moron?
Yeah, but you want someone who's like, if you want someone who's like keeping peace, you don't want them acting in their own self-interest. Like Israel can't. They're not like a impartial party here.
Like, if Israel were actually attacked by like an actual state, real army, like Israel or something like this, I'm not saying I'm against the U.S. getting involved. I'm not. Wait, what?
Would this be considered similar to Iran attacking Israel? Like them paying someone nearby to attack Israel?
Them paying someone? Well,
yeah, I'm saying
it depends on what you're talking about.
What I'm saying
Depends on what you're talking about.
Okay, I'll say it very simply. If Iran paid Hamas to perpetuate October 7th, is that an attack from Hamas in your eyes or an attack from Iran?
Well, I think it's more of a sort of proxy situation. If that makes sense. So I'm happy to blame Iran in part for that. You know, if that's what you're asking. But the point is this. The point is this, right? Like the point is this. If there was like a military, like I'm talking like large scale, like invasion of some sort, or like a real like a serious threat. That's not just like, okay, look, I'm not trying to downplay like terror attacks. I take them very seriously. But I also think that it was a mistake on the part of the U.S. several times to go to war with nations over those kinds of attacks. And I do think that there are like nuanced lines there. Like obviously you don't just like allow it to continue, you know, and you have to do certain things in response. But look, the U.S. going to war with Iran or, you know, another like large scale invasion of a country in the Middle East like that would be very bad for many, many reasons. And if Israel, like, we should be trying to avoid those kinds of conflicts, right? And I'm not saying that like if Iran like initiated a conflict and attacked Israel that we shouldn't get involved. I'm not saying that, you know, but we should be trying to make sure that doesn't happen, you know. And this isn't making it better.
Okay, everybody, it's my Saturday night
Hi,
podcast.
everyone.
Hey, man. How you doing?
Hi, Samia.
Thank you. I just came at the tail end.
Did you want to apologize to all the Somalians?
Sully was saying.
Yeah, we're just talking about like Israel, Palestine, I suppose. But it seems to have kind of died off.
I'm trying to find the YouTube. There was a Glenn Lowry episode.
Yo, Buster, you there?
Yeah.
Yo, Buster. I still got it, bro. I still got it S on my chest.
Yo, what happened? You guys kicked out all the Israel debaters?
I think they left and they're
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yo, Buster, dude, you should have seen me today. I was like a machine, bro. Yo, I maxed out. Then did some lunges up and down a hill. And then 2.5 miles, bro. On those heavy legs.
That's right.
12 minutes, 16 seconds, bro. I still got it.
You still got it.
that concludes the Israeli-Palestinian Debate Podcast 120, 6:45 p.m. CST.